Oh, wait.
It's okay.
We're going.
Okay, let's go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Trauma Talks and Truths. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. I am Dr. Isela Garcia.
And I'm Nina.
And we are here. I was having kind of a little bit of a crisis that I wanted to share with everybody. And if you are somebody who waits for us to come on board to go live, I apologize for how late we are, but I was kind of having a moment.
We have moments, and we let ourselves have those moments. And I think it's so valuable to be able to be seen in our moments. So tell us, Isela, what's happening?
Yeah, so I said to Nina right before we came on, I was like, okay, so should we go on or should we not go on? And then I was like, no, I think I'm going to tell this story. Okay. So I'm going to tell you my story. Where do I begin? So I have had this thing inside me for as long as I can remember. And I have always felt like I'm supposed to help. I'm supposed to help. There is a quote that is often passed around when tragedy happens. And it's Mr. Rogers' quote. And it says that when he was a little boy, he was scared. And he would say to his mom, he asked his mom, like, what happens when, bad things happen? And, like being a little boy afraid of when bad things happen. And his mom said, you always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. And I have been witness, and not only have I been a helper, but one of the things that I really pay attention to is when there are like car accidents, there's an accident that happens. It's like within seconds, people jump out of their car. People jump out of their cars. They pull over. People are running. They're figuring out what to do. And it's like, you can watch it, because I've been a part of this experience several times, where you can watch kind of the leaders come they rise. And the leaders are like, okay, go open the other door, pull this out, take the baby. It's like people start to organize to help. And I've been witness to like emergency situations like that. And I think that there's a journey of healing. First off, let me back up a little bit, because that was an important way for me to start. But I want to just share what my perspective is about being here, because a lot of people, especially in the spiritual community, talk about this being a matrix and this being an illusion, and that you need to stay in a space of like knowing, understanding who you are. And that, systems need to collapse, and systems need to in order for us to create true change, like there needs to be a collapse in the way that things have historically been. Like, I get that. But I also feel like our awakening, and I'm just going to speak for myself because I think everybody has a different experience. My awakening wasn't just for myself. My awakening was and has always been for others, for the collective, because I feel so strongly in the quote that I just shared about finding the helpers. I have historically been in my career a helper, because I feel like awakening to the truth of who we are is only a part of the story within the matrix and the illusion. I think the next level beyond the awakening is to be of service to others. And Paul Selig's work, he's a channel, and he's got, last I heard, because I don't have all of the books, I have most of them. He has the first 3, and then he has another trilogy, and then another trilogy. So I think there's 9. There might be more now. But one of the mantras, because he speaks to a collective, they channel through him. And one of the mantras that they have shared is, I know who I am. And you say it 3 times. I know who I am. I know who I am. I know who I am. I know how I serve. I know how I serve. And I am very aware of who I am in truth beyond this time and space. And I know how I serve. And so with everything happening in the United States right now, and it's having a ripple effect across the world, I've really been in this place of, yeah, I can be in this space of staying in this high vibe, or recognizing that this is an illusion and recognizing everything from that lens. But I can't sit and watch people continue to be harmed. I can't. I can't watch. And then the argument is like, well, then, don't watch.
Yes.
I don't turn the TV on. I get my news from independent sources, but like, don't go looking for that. There are innocent people being sent to Guantanamo. I can't ever say that.
Guantanamo?
Bay. Literally innocent people. There are children who are afraid of being ripped away from their parents. Like, I can't be okay with that. And so in my exploration of this and my meditations, Andrew Harvey, I have this book in hard. This is called The Direct Path. I have his other book. I just ordered one that I don't have, but I have the other one on my Kindle. It's on sacred activism. Let me see. Let me get this. Oh, it's called The Hope. It's a book on sacred activism. And Andrew Harvey, his work is really about moving to that next level of awareness, which is that there are some of us who are here to do the work of service to others. But the challenge that we have is that we don't want to come from a place of anger or fear. And that's where some advocacy work comes from, is that space of fear, right?
Yeah.
And anger. And I will tell you, anger has served its purpose. Like, sometimes we have to get pissed off enough to want to do something, right? Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't serve a purpose, but we don't want to align with the fear, because that's where anger is rooted. It's rooted in fear. We don't want to anger or we don't want to align with fear. And so his advocacy work there's 5 parts to it. Okay. And the first part is spiritual grounding. So that's recognizing who we truly are. It's our deep connection to the divine. It's ensuring that what we do and how we act comes from love, wisdom, and resilience. Okay. And then there's heart-centered action, where what we are actually doing. So we anchor in, and then what we actually doing comes from compassion, sacred service, and a desire for justice and healing. The next one is integrating the mystic and the revolutionary, which mysticism alone, and I think sometimes that's like our metaphysical perspectives and ideologies, can lead to detachment. So we can be detached from everything that's happening.
Yeah.
While activism without spiritual grounding can lead to rage and exhaustion. And so sacred activism bridges those two things. And this was one of my moments that I had last night, when I also realized that I am the bridge, or a bridge. I think there are many of us, a bridge from fear to love. And my role and responsibility, I really feel like it's a responsibility. I don't have an option. I do not have a choice. My job is to help people, whoever's open and willing, move from a place of being afraid to understanding love and aligning with, which is my whole purpose. That's like my company's name is Love Being. It's learn to access the truth of who you are and to be that.
Yeah.
The next one is engaging the shadow, because there is a personal and there's a collective shadow. So we have our own personal shadows, and then there's a collective, which is what we're seeing. We're seeing the big ass collective shadow, and it's triggering our own personal shadow. And this work is critical for us to move through that awareness of our shadow. We either have to heal or integrate it or align, or like, because there's not one way to manage the shadow experience.
Yeah.
But we got to make sure that it doesn't become this unconscious projection of trauma. And then the fifth one is really about aligning with joy and love as a catalyst for change.
Yes.
So we see that as our source of strength is joy and love. And that's what makes it sustainable, is to land in the space of joy and love. And I really think that that's what I have to do.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's my spiel. That's where I'm at. And I would much rather not. No, I say this, but it's not true. I think it's, it's scary. It's a scary experience, but I'm like, I can't not sit by. And what I said to Nina, I said this to my sister last night too. There's so many people in the spiritual community that are like, we do nothing. We be observers of everything. And I'm like, okay, so if there was a fire, like in LA, there were fires happening, and you had horses and you had cats and you had dogs and you had, animals. Would you just say in your mind, well, I'll catch them on the other side? Like,
No.
I'll see them. They don't recognize the truth of who they are, but I'll see them on the other side. They'll be okay. They'll be fine ultimately.
You're supposed to go through that.
Yeah, you're supposed to have that experience of burning alive.
Yeah.
We wouldn't do that. We would go, oh my God, there's a cat. We got to get the cat out. We got to get the dog. Let the horses go. Got to let them go so they can, I'll go with the wild horses who will take them. They'll know where to go. It's like we go, we need to help in the way that we need to help. So when we look around and we see people from marginalized communities who are being dismissed and harmed, and we sit back and we go, we need to sit in our space of nothing, because this is an illusion.
Right.
It's a matrix. They just don't know. Like, that makes no sense to me. None. I know who I am in truth. I know who I am in truth. But I also know that just because others don't, that I should be dismissive of them.
Right.
So there's my spiel.
Isela, I want to say something about this. First of all, it takes a lot of courage to say, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I'm being called forward right now and I'm going to listen to the call. I'm going to heed the call. I'm being called, and everything in your life has brought you here, right? Who better than you? Also. So I want to share that. It takes a lot of courage. I'm celebrating the heck out of you for having the courage to admit to yourself, because if you're listening to this and you've ever had this like reckoning with yourself, right? It's almost like you come to this awareness of like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do next. And the mind is like, no, 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 I don't think so, right? Like, and that's why you have a little moment where you're like, I'd rather not, but like, actually, that's not true, right? But that's the mind who wants to keep you safe and all the things and has the stories. But if you've ever been in that place where you're like, there's a Y in the road, a fork. There's a fork in the road. And I could ignore what I'm being called forward to do, or I can listen and walk into uncertainty. It's scary. It's very scary. Right? But that's when you lean on your trust. And all the knowing that you have already about who you are.
You know, I kind of want to drop into the idea of scary for a minute. I have an interesting relationship with fear, I think. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to explain this. And I also don't want to dismiss other people's experience of fear, because, I've been doing this work, this internal work, for a really long time. And so I've had a lot of practice to get to where I'm about to share, where I've landed. I recognize fear as an intellectual experience. So fear is something that, well, people call it false evidence appearing real, but like this experience and the thought of stepping out in this way, when I say that, I don't know that I'm not afraid. So when I tap into my body and I really go, okay, I know I need to step into the sacred activism, and I need to find the people who are wanting, and it's like we define what role we play,
Sure.
what part in this that we are going to take. And really what I want to provide is a place to get people anchored in. And so for me, this feeling of envisioning myself doing this does not feel scary in my body. It's the headspace of, fuck, that's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to do. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And do you really want to do that? Right? Like
Yeah.
that's what's happening in my intellectual state of being. It's like, or what if this goes nowhere?
What if it goes nowhere?
What if it goes nowhere? We just keep going. But in my body, when I tap into it, I don't feel afraid. I feel sort of neutral.
It's very, it's good insight, right? The body, what do you make of that?
The best way for me to, do you ever watch sidestep here. Do you ever watch, I don't know if you've ever seen What Would You Do? You
No,
gotta
is
watch.
it a show?
Yeah,
Never.
it's an NBC show. I think it's, oh, I could be wrong. Could be ABC. Shit, I don't know. Crap, now I'm forgetting his name. And it'll come to me once we are off. But he goes around to places all over the nation, and he sets up scenarios. Him and his team set up scenarios. And so it might be where the person who owns the shop doesn't want to sell something to them because they're a person of color, or
Hmm.
because they're, so it puts us into these moral situations where we go, or these ethical situations, to just depending. And so they're witnesses. So sometimes it's in a restaurant, sometimes it's at a store, and they are actors who come in and they play out a situation, and then they see who responds, who notices. So like one is a parent, a foster parent with their child, and then a foster child. And the foster parent buys a full meal for their child. And these are actors. So she buys a full meal for their child, and then that child, the foster kid, gets the leftovers.
Oh.
And people are watching and hearing the conversation where they're like, you're just lucky to have food. You don't even like that kind of thing. And people start to like look and like, what the F is happening? And so they wait to see who steps forward, who does. And so they'll set up situations that have to do with race and ethnicity and backgrounds and class and all these things. And so my daughter and I have watched it forever and a day, because it's always been a good opportunity for her and I have conversations about, what do you do, right? What do you do, and
Yeah.
where is that coming from? And so for me, in every situation, it's like, you come from a state of love. You come from the place of love, knowing that, and it's not that you're, here's the other thing that's really fascinating and hard for people to understand, I think. I'm not angry at the way people react or behave. I'm not like, fuck those people. They don't know what it's like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's not where I come from. I used to come from that, that's kind of where I came from in general. But
Yeah.
what I think about is your experiences in this lifetime have led you to where you are right now. And you are simply, either you're in a state of unconscious awareness, you have had a lot of your own personal trauma, your own experiences, and so you're responding from that state.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see beyond that and go, you, at the truth of who you are, we are one. You
Yeah.
just happen to have these experiences that have led for you to believe these things. So for me, now, do I condone it? No. And when I talk to when my daughter and I are reflecting upon this, I say, I would stand up and I would say, this is not acceptable. This is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have those two things in the same space. You can say, I recognize the truth of who you are, and you may not treat somebody in this way. It's not okay. It's
Yeah.
not okay, because that doesn't come from an extension of who we truly are, which is love. And
Mm.
so when now landing back into that question of like my body, in my body, and recognize, or knowing, it's a deep knowing that that I have a responsibility to come from the state of love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my body speaking. Intellectually, I would rather just keep my ass sitting in the chair and not do anything.
Yeah. What do you do in that case? So let's say, what are you doing? And what would you suggest other people do if they have a knowing and their body is telling them, yeah, this is what's next, but intellectually the mind is like, I'd rather just sit my ass in this chair. I don't want to do the thing. Yeah. What do you
I
do?
think I think well, what's happening, I think, when we align the top part, our chakras and our intellectual self included in this experience, and our bottom, which is our grounding in this experience, is activated and is bridged through the heart. And so I think learning to trust your intuitive nature, because your intuitive nature comes from this space, learning to trust your intuitive nature, knowing that, this is the hard part, it's going to keep knocking at your door until you take action.
Yes.
And that's true about anything. That if it's healing, like if you have healing left to do, or if you have something that you just know at a deeper level, like you might be in a relationship that's bad for you and you know it. But you, for whatever reason, it could be finances, it could be children, it could be circumstances in terms of house, and you're away from your family. Lots of things could go into play for this. But like, it will keep knocking. That's your intuitive nature. That's your divine wisdom. And it will knock and it will knock and it'll knock in different ways until you're willing to answer the call, because that's you, that's your deepest I saying, hey, we haven't forgotten. You may not be ready yet, and that's okay, but we're going to wait around here until you are.
Yeah.
And so what I have done, I made a deal. I hate when I say the word deal because it sounds like I made a deal with the devil. But I made an agreement that I would listen to the whispers of the universe, and that I wouldn't need a 2x4 to go to, because if you don't listen, you don't listen, you don't listen. Sometimes you'll get a 2x4 that said, see, we were trying to tell you, but you didn't listen. That I don't need a 2x4. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. I just have to reconcile it with my own resistance, because I get, even from the spiritual community, I stay in the high vibe. Or
Yeah.
perspective of your reality. If you just change
Mhm.
your perspective and focus on the things that are going well, that's what you're going to see.
Yeah.
Your ascension comes from recognizing all the good things, because it's the fear that's bringing you down, and then you're going to project that out into your experience. Like and I also wouldn't let the horses burn. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not equating people to horses, but there's like a right thing to do.
Yeah. And I think obviously it's not everybody who's feeling that call, right? Their
And
deepest
that's
vow is not
not
calling them.
me. I'm not placing judgment.
Mhm.
Everybody needs to play their own role. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get that. But I am a woman of color.
Mhm.
And my experiences, especially because my husband is Black, we have had and we got married way back when and lived in Texas, where at the time we were looked at like, we were in a small community in Texas, and primarily white community outside the military, because my husband was military. Within the military base, it was not a big deal, but outside of the military and the community, I mean, we got a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we got pulled over one time because I'm white passing, especially at night. And so we were driving to Texas, and we got pulled over by a cop. And he really started to like question us in the way that like my husband had like was like kidnapping me. He was asking me
Oh,
if I was fine. He had put on our ticket, he had put white woman, and with a Black man, and it had an ick feel to it. So like, those experiences shape us.
yeah. Yeah.
So to not respond when our people are being harmed, it just doesn't make sense to me
Mhm.
intellectually. From the
Yeah.
heart space, I understand we are all one.
So, yeah.
So that's where I'm at. And so all this
Mhm.
to say, I am going to step into this sacred activism. Nina and I have a group together on the Circle platform, and I think it's important to step away from. We want to get to more decentralized platforms where we can have conversations. So we do have a Circle platform where we have a group that we just started, and so group forming. But I'm going to add on a separate group within that Circle platform that's specifically around Andrew Harvey's work that I just described. I want to do a 3-tiered payment system, a membership, so that everyone has access. If you are unable to pay, there is a free option, and then we have the second tier and then the third tier. So my plan in the next probably week is to really set this up, and then put a call out to people, put a call out to everywhere, anyone who has like, oh, just awakened and trying to figure this out. Like I'm recognizing things that I didn't know before. I might have visions at night. I'm having like seeing things in my third eye and I'm not understanding, or I'm hearing things and I'm not understanding. So there's a lot of awakening happening. So if you are in that process, I would invite you to join. Also, the seers and the healers and the empaths and the energy workers, people who are already in this awareness, I think we need to anchor in and really provide a space where we can not only anchor in, but make a plan and be aware. So be aware politically what's happening, and then recognize what's your role within your communities. You could have virtual, you can have in-person communities. What's your role and what are you willing to do to help and serve others?
Awesome. Thank you for sharing with us. And if you're listening, and you just want to connect, reach out to either one of us. If you really are interested in joining Isela's group, how can they kind of get in touch with you? What's best? What's the best route?
What is the best route? I would say my website, and I usually put the website information below. I'll also have my email address. My website is Love Being Sacred Journey, Sacred Journey. I can put drop my information so people can reach out, because I am looking for folks who want to be a part of this journey.
Yes. Yep. All right. I'm just really witnessing you and where you are right now. And I feel really a lot of gratitude for you being willing to share your truth live with people. Not just your truth, but like the process of coming to land in it, right? To say, yeah, I'm doing this. It's really cool, because we just talked on Wednesday, and this was not here for you. And this is like, what do they call it? Inspired aligned action is happening. Yeah. And
it's so funny, because I do actually move pretty quickly when I get I do move quickly.
You're not the same in that area.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, the whispers of the universe. I'm like, no, okay, I'll do it. And then it's like, tomorrow I have a website up.
Yeah,
I do that.
Yeah. No, me on the other hand, I took down my website and I'm working on it.
Yeah, so if you are watching and or if you know anybody, like if you know anybody who wants to be a part of this, I'm going to start posting on TikTok about this. I am really opening the doors for everyone. I want everyone can be a part of this. And I also want to give space for marginalized voices. So people who are people of color, our LGBTQIA folks, people who are neurodivergent, people who have historically felt like they were not seen or heard. You are invited here, and I want us to come together as a force to be grounded in light and to do the important work that needs to be done to unify and help people awaken.
Awesome.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for being here. See you on Monday.